Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you've spent a second here, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business is to know more about and implement more effectively some sales and marketing, which is, of course, what you need if you're going to be more successful in your business. So what we do here is we bring in anyone we can find with knowledge to share on you being more successful with your sales and marketing. We look at the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. And every other week, Melanie Farmer, Concierge of Co-creation at Crazy Might Work, comes along and we talk about the news and we speculate wildly about what this might mean for anyone who's engaged in effective marketing. Good afternoon, Melanie Farmer.
At your service. Good afternoon, Martin. Very good to be here.
You're an absolute star. You know, this is 18th episode of the news. I think we must have done 10 or 12 together already because Jonas was involved before. Jonas might get involved again. We might do this every week. But that's quite cool, isn't it? Like consistent, if nothing else, through COVID, through springs, winters, summers, fires, floods. We're here bringing them the news, those people who might be watching.
We're brilliant, fantastic, excellent, good.
Good. So we start typically with a little boast. Do you have a little boast?
Yeah, we submitted our Stage 3 application for the National Telstra Awards for Innovation and Health. So we were nominated for 2 categories. So it's a long journey to be a winner.
Okay, Telstra, are they a telco in Australia?
They are, yeah. So they're sort of like British Telecom or what would it be in the US, I'm not sure. But yes, big,
okay.
The original and biggest national telecommunications agency.
Fantastic. So you are through to the 3rd round. Is that where you are?
We are. So Stage 4 is a panel pitch, so it's a much smaller cohort. So I think they originally had 20,000 at Stage 1, and then we've gone narrow. So we'll be down to the final sort of 50 at the next point where they interview you.
Fantastic.
There you go. But I mean,
excellent.
I will say the value for us is in answering the questions, because as you grow as a business, the questions that you get asked in an awards category make you think, gosh, I should have an answer to that. What is my answer? So it's been very useful for us, shout out to Telstra, to help us think about what we actually need to be doing and should be doing.
100%. You need to be thinking about what you're doing. You need to be interrogating your business all the time. I think that's the key to being in business and being successful. And yeah, excellent. That's really good news. Well done. Did I boast about having a new microphone last time we spoke?
I think so. Did we
talk about the fact that Paul sounded better than I do, so I had to go out and buy a new microphone?
That's the one you've got.
Oh, then I've achieved nothing in the last 2 weeks.
Your lighting, I would say, though.
Oh, my lighting has improved. Yeah, there's a little orange light there on the surf pictures behind me now, so I'm quite pleased with that. That's all I've achieved then in the last 2 weeks. It's okay. I'll keep on keeping on. Actually, what we've achieved is we've slowed down on the content that we're producing. We've decided that we need to make the most of every piece of content that we produce. So now everything we do is getting transcribed to give us an opportunity for search engine optimization, all those kinds of things. So I'm feeling really happy about that, actually, that we really are making the most of the content that we're producing and slowing down and getting ready to do it better. That's the boast. That's the decision we've made. That's what we've done. We've done less work, I think is what I'm saying. I'm really bad at this boasting business.
We've just all completed a module in disability awareness. And It's a weird thing to boast about, but it really speaks to what you've just said about slowing down. One of the things that we learned from doing this module is, if you think about it, a good chunk of the world wear reading glasses, and if they didn't, then technically they'd really be having a disability. How could they engage with the world without their reading glasses? And so it just changes the way you think about inclusivity. And I quite liked that, if I do this, I now really have a disability where I can't see what is happening. So
yes,
I actually need to have those to read. And so I have a medical device, you could say,
Yes.
to help you to be, in the same way somebody might have a wheelchair if they need it. So it just changes your thinking about what inclusivity means and why it's important.
Yes. And how many people actually need to be included. Yeah. And how many
Yeah.
people are benefiting from, like you say, medical devices. That's a good way. You've come up with really two really good boasts, and I'm still struggling with one. I can't.
Slowing down now, important.
Slowing down, I think, is important and good, yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of been the theme for a little while, maybe for a month or so, that slowing down might be good. So that's good. Okay, cool. But we're here not to boast. We're here to talk about the marketing news. So what has caught your attention in the last couple of weeks in the way of marketing news?
Well, two stories. One is about the ACCC, which is what are they called? The Australian Consumers something Association, Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. All right. ACCC in Australia, they have been doing a sweep of organisations around fake reviews and greenwashing and all of these sorts of things. So that's happening right now.
Okay.
And so that's just interesting in terms of what's happening with Australian companies and online reviews and how they're trying to game the system and so forth. And the second story, which is probably bigger, is the Optus data breach, which has now cascaded into a Telstra data breach. And Optus, of course, owned by Singtel in Singapore, which is Singapore Telecommunications, have been impacted in terms of a story as well on the data breach, because this is Optus Australia. Yeah. So cybersecurity issues and how organisations respond when that happens.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Two very good stories. I've got three, but I think one's going to be quite short because we seem to be talking about it all the time. My three are, number one is YouTube looking to provide direct monetization for shorts, a big shift in the short form content battle. So this is YouTube now actually gearing up to go to war with TikTok. Maybe it's a bit late. I think that's interesting. This is the one that I think might be quite short. Google facing 25.4 billion damages claims in the UK over ad tech, UK and Holland, Dutch courts over. Okay, in UK and Dutch courts. This is the issue when people write on the internet. They don't really understand grammar. So UK, Dutch courts. Why isn't it UK and Dutch courts? Why isn't it British and Dutch? Okay, that's the story. Google facing a $25 billion plus campaign. What's that?
We may not have time to unpack the grammar side of that discussion.
No, well, I think we already have. They don't know what they're doing in terms of grammar. But that's that issue. And then the third one is Twitter. Twitter ads suspended by top brands because of child exploitation. So those are my three stories. Because I've got three, it makes sense that we sandwich yours. So one of mine, one of yours, one of mine, one of yours, one of mine. Does that make sense? Which do we think is the biggest story? I think probably this YouTube thing. YouTube looking to provide direct competition now to TikTok through shorts. What they're saying is it's been a bit of a mess because the way YouTube... Sorry, I've just decided we're going with this story. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, it's been a bit of a mess because nobody really understands how the YouTube algorithm works, other than obviously it's designed to generate as much revenue for YouTube as possible. The logical thing is that they decide which videos to promote and therefore which videos are going to be perform best in terms of monetization by the watch time and like the click through, the watch time and the engagement, but largely the watch time. So whenever YouTube bought out shorts, it kind of made a mess of everything because now people are getting lots of duration, that's the thing. So duration and watch time are the things. So people were getting lots of duration. People were watching much larger percentages of the video because they were much shorter, but they weren't getting the watch time, which is the number of minutes, hours, weeks, whatever people spend looking at the things. So what kind of happened is that these shorts cannibalized, like a lot of big content producers were complaining that they were doing shorts, they were getting lots of views, they were getting lots of duration, but their watch time was going off a cliff, and so they were losing actual money. And the thing is that the shorts weren't monetized at all. So what YouTube are saying now is that they will pay 45% of ad revenue to producers of shorts. It might be the same story always. What the big content producers are saying is that this will be much more money than you actually get from TikTok. So what it will do is it will bring back content producers to YouTube. It will be much more lucrative than actually putting the content on TikTok. I don't really understand how it works. If you're a content producer, don't you just put the content everywhere? I don't really know. It's the same questions that we ask every time this sort of stuff happens. Is it too late? Does anybody care? Doesn't everyone just put all of their content everywhere anyway? How do you feel about the whole shorts, YouTube, Insta Reels kind of situation? Is this, you kind of started producing content, but you're not looking to generate money from your content, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't remember, but in the last week I did see a story, I don't remember where people were migrating away from YouTube. And so YouTube were struggling to have people make content full stop. And perhaps that is because they are heading off to make more money elsewhere and prioritizing making content for others. And this could be a response to that, is to entice content producers back.
Yes.
So perhaps that's what's happening. And I'm trying to remember where I saw that story. It's only in the last week. But it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you not just post your content on YouTube as well, regardless?
Yeah. So the things are, is it Rumble, Twitch, YouTube? There are other places. I don't know if they are doing so well. If content producers are doing so well, like Twitch is very much a gamers kind of platform, and I think they're starting to bring in kind of maybe sports fans, fight fans, football fans. What's interesting about this is, I don't know if I've actually told you this, but YouTube is kind of my pension plan. This is why I'm busy producing all this content, because I want to help people to be more successful, and also I want this corporation to pay for my retirement. Our revenue per 1,000 views has gone from something like $25 per 1,000 back at the beginning of the year to something like, I'm trying to open the document and it won't open for me now, but it's something like $25 to something like 62 cents. So what is that? That's fallen, like, that's more than 90. My percentages aren't great. But that's gone off a cliff. Now, I don't know if it's because we're pushing too hard. I don't know if it's because we're doing things that they don't like. I don't know what it is. I don't know if advertisers, because the world's going into a global recession, are just stopping advertising. I don't really know what it is. I've spoken to YouTube and they told me I'm not being penalized, but it is a fact. It's literally gone from $25 per 1,000 views to 60 cents or something, which is insane, because that's like a 99% reduction, is it? What's 1% that's a 97% reduction.
There's a digital marketing trend that I read about as well, which was one of the stories I was going to put forward today, about brands changing how they measure success, because they were measuring by views and so forth, and that they are not. So it could be a bit of a symbiotic relationship where you're not actually, brands are standing up to that and saying, we're not this is not monetized for us. Like we're not going to pay for views, or we're not going to pay for, we're only paying when there's XYZ engagement, which means something different to what it meant in the past. So brands are starting to push back.
Yeah,
I wonder
I
if
think
that's
maybe that. I think, you know what I kind of think? I think these platforms aren't really delivering amazing value, is what I think. So it wouldn't surprise me if people are pulling it now because things are getting tight. The other aspect to this that people need to be aware of is obviously advertising on short form videos needs to be very different. So apparently they've been trialing like these 5-second long ads. I was talking to a guy yesterday who's runs an agency in the UK as part of Talk Marketing. He runs an agency of 70 people. All they do is digital advertising. And what's the thing about that? He was just raving about TikTok. TikTok is winning for everybody, so a lot of their energy. They provide all the platforms. They've provided Google for 15 years, Facebook for 12 years, all of them. TikTok is the winner. So I don't know. Does it address the issue? It seems like, why is it taking them so long? Like, shorts have been around for a year, I'm sure. Like, why only now? It just makes my point again, I think.
They're scaling now. They've probably been A/B testing, this stuff for some time, I would imagine, in different, maybe in different countries and small jurisdictions, and then it would just be like, to our mind, it's suddenly happened and it's too late. But in truth, it's highly likely that all it is that it's scaled and gone platform wide now. Because I would imagine that's generally what you're doing, is piloting and testing and seeing what is actually you try this in the market, that market, and then boom. So I reckon, I don't know, but I reckon that's probably what's actually happened, that it's just now gone platform wide, global. We're going to do it.
I'm so much more cynical than you on all these things. You give them much more credit than I do. I think they're just panicking. I think TikTok's taking over the world and they're coming up late to see what they can do about it. Okay, so that's interesting. That's cool. That's my first story. What's the conclusion? The conclusion is, we're going to know shortly, because we finally got to the point where we are starting to clip up all of our videos. We're going to have hundreds of clips. So there's going to be tsunamis of content going now out to Shorts and Reels and TikTok. So we'll know soon. We'll know kind of what the effect of all those things are, which is quite exciting. Good. So that brings us to one of your stories. You think the Optus story is the biggest story. Is that what you think?
I think so. And I'm not, is it a marketing story? Optus being, this probably the second largest telecommunications company in Australia, owned by Singapore Telecom, Singtel. They had all of their customer data crashed. What is interesting is how they've stolen.
Hacked. Yes.
Cyber attack, and not.
This is a very. Sorry, this article that you've sent is very kind of serious, technical looking.
Yeah. So the thing that's kind of slightly alarming is that there's a lot of data that they got. They got people's names, date of birth, phone numbers, email addresses. And for some customers, they also got their driver's license and their passport numbers. So what they didn't get was payment details and account passwords. Important about the payment details. But, there's someone out there who's got my passport number and my driver's license and my date of birth. That's a lot of data. So the CEO came on and made the statement about that they're devastated by this attack on behalf of customers, and that they frozen blah blah blah, and everything's don't worry sort of thing. But it was really a huge set of their customers, and then since then, which has only happened I think like half an hour ago or something like that, 6 hours ago. 6 hours ago, Optus handed their data over to government, And then where's the Telstra staff attack, cyber attack happened then again, like sometime today or yesterday, but it's only staff data, not customer data. I wonder if that's true. How would they? But what is interesting is how they are trying to manage this news and protect their brand. So you can imagine a big exodus of customers from Optus to Telstra, just switching suppliers overnight. And then, of course, in the middle of all of that switching, Telstra, who they probably switched to, experienced a massive cyber attack themselves. Only they claimed that it was only affecting staff, not customers. So I guess, I mean, I'm just interested in it. This is the time of cyber attacks. It's not like it's new. It's been going on for probably a decade and increasing levels. Last year, in fact, there was one of the biggest cyber attacks we'd had as a country, and it had compromised some government data. So, you know, it's not really happy days. I'll tell you what I think is quite interesting and diverting to the mind is that something like 95% of hackers are male. So there is a school of thought that if you have women coders looking at hacking as a profession in terms of like being defendable to hackers, if they got women in to create code, it is harder for a man, to hack something that's been coded by a woman. Because although they might arrive at the same destination in terms of that code, the way they go about coding is just different.
Yes.
So if you think about two men in a bar having a conversation, two women in a bar having a conversation, they might both be talking about the football, but the way they arrive at their conclusion and concluding remarks is very different and probably reasonably identifiable. Like the men are going to do this and the women are going to do that. Now, this is to suggest that there's no nuance, which is unfair. But what happens is if they have women who've coded something, it's harder for men to hack it and vice versa. So this is what is being looked at now. It's quite interesting. Total aside, but you've got, for the most part, male coding and male hackers hacking the code.
Right.
So it actually increases the risk. How about that? That's just a quite interesting thing that's just starting to happen in the world of cybersecurity. Realizing how effective it can be to just have some diversity, how important diversity is.
Yes, I think that's a little bit tenuous. I know a little bit about this because I interviewed a guy, which will go up next Tuesday for the Talk Marketing thing, who had quoted Optus with a service that would have prevented this breach, and they didn't do anything about it. And what he's saying is his is an email solution. It's all about kind of domain spoofing and all those things. And it's huge. Yeah. Like the fraud that's perpetrated is huge. And so he was saying that I think this is marketing, not only in the way that they respond, which is they might be devastated, but I bet the CEO isn't worried about someone now selling his Australian passport to somebody in a foreign country. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure his data wasn't breached. So he might be devastated, but he's not actually going to suffer. So I think it's the responsibility. I think this might become a theme of this, of the remainder of this conversation is
accountability.
And responsibility. So,
yes.
Why are they demanding copies of people's the driving licenses and passports if they are not taking the proper steps to safeguard those things? And where it's really about marketing is like we are being told, forced to give up more and more and more personal data And from this conversation for an hour and a half on Friday, what I know is that most of these corporations, there is a solution. There are solutions to these breaches. It's like not that they're impenetrable. There are solutions, but there's no will to actually affect those solutions. So this is the issue. This is why it's marketing, because it's a pitch. Give us your most important documents, and now give us your medical history and your criminal history, and nobody, literally nobody. So it might be health institutions, it might be telecoms companies, it might be IT companies. Nobody is putting in place the safeguards to actually protect that data. And the thing is, it's identity theft is the issue. Like, I don't know if it's still the case, but somebody told me that in Africa you could get £5,000 for a British passport. Well, these people, if this is to be produced, to be believed, now have 9.8 million Australian passports. So that's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of issue. And for me, it is.
Wasn't everybody had a passport? So there's a subset of the clients of Optus. Some of the clients had passport data hacked into. But it is a pattern as well. So what's alarming for me is, like, it's been going on, and it's a business. What you do is you hack an organization, you take their data, freeze it, you offer a ransom price, the organization pays the ransom, you give them their data back, and you promise never to hack it again, right? So this happened with Cadbury 2 years ago, and last year, other multitude of companies in Australia last year. And Cadbury paid the hackers to get their data back. I'm pretty sure that is what ended up happening. And in this case, you would have to believe that Optus paid something out of court to stop the situation escalating, because the initial response was, we're not paying an organisation who's hacked us to go away. And then within hours, it suddenly went away. How did that actually happen?
Yep.
It's suddenly safe again. Why? I'm pretty sure you must have paid somebody something to make this go away. And of course, you would not want to say that, because it's saying we pay terrorists, we pay hackers, that's what we do. Feel free to hack us anytime, because we're good to pay for you to be quiet and go away.
But you, the customer, are actually paying, because you're paying inflated prices for the product, because they have to pay these people.
Yeah, you would be happy, but you would hope that you wouldn't have to have that be where they spend their money. You want them to spend their money on doing that before the attack, so the attack doesn't happen, is unsuccessful.
Yeah. This solution from this guy has been mandated by Lloyd's of London. So Lloyd's of London or data insurers, because it's an industry, people who pay out for these breaches are now mandating them to use this solution. And it's interesting because we think it's about identity, like it might be in this instance. We think it's about ransomware, but there are dozens of different ways that this works. So there is a flavor of this called invoice fraud, I think they call it, where literally they will spoof the CEO of a corporation's email address and send an email to account saying, look, these invoices attached need to be cleared immediately. I've cleared them, and that could be millions of dollars, because they could be 4 or 5 invoices worth 600,000 each, So, the cost of this is huge. And the way, I'm not technical enough to know if his solution actually does solve the issue, but Lloyd's of London insurers have decided that it does, and they're mandating it. But if you start thinking about it, there's lots of ways to address these issues. It's kind of like the conversation we were having 2 weeks ago, where these businesses, these big technical businesses, aren't very good at listening. They're not interested in listening. They know it all. And the other thing that really strikes me about this is this data grab that's going on. Actually, a telephone company has no interest it has no business having your driving license and your passport at all. Do you know what I mean? That's the end of it. Why would they possibly have that? They have it because they do credit scores, whatever that might be. But if they can't do a credit score without that data, then they shouldn't be offering services to those people. Do you know what I mean? They need to find other ways of doing this without constantly grabbing people's data. And it's the same, with Google and Google Analytics. Nobody uses more than 4% of the data that's available through Google Analytics. So why don't they just collect the 4%? It's some kind of megalomania that goes on, some sort of grasping that they just want everything from everyone. Do you know what I mean? It's ugly.
I love how Estonia does this. So I don't know if you've come across Estonia, which is a case study, but how Estonia, citizens of Estonia, and you don't have to be from Estonia to become a citizen of Estonia.
And you don't even have to be there. You don't have to have gone there. Yes.
But Estonian citizens have 100% control and visibility of all of their data. So they can see if the police have checked their data or a school has checked their data. They can see who has checked their data, when, who that was, exactly when and who. And they can also say, when somebody tries to check their data, they can say, no, you can't see it. They can control who is allowed to see what. And so they have a very, it's like a robust transparency about, whereas I wouldn't know who's checking my data on what half the time. Because I might have given permission and don't remember. But if anyone checked my data, first of all, my data's in one place. I can go in, I can see who's checking what and seeing how many times my passport's been looked at. So it's a very different system. So I think it's an interesting time for a country like Estonia to go, well, this is a non-issue where we are because we've got this system where our whole world is online. And so it is 10 times beyond in terms of security. Because of that, they are far more invested in the security of their data, but also far more transparent to the individual in terms of controlling their own data. And so, for example, in this situation, you would imagine that Telstra would have to go into your environment and have permission to go and look at X, Y, Z, and then be satisfied and leave, and then you are happily not sharing with them on their server your data.
Yeah, 100%.
They can just look at it and go away.
Yes. So they can have temporary access to it, but they don't get to have it. That's the thing. Yeah, and the thing is about Estonia, I mean, arguably it's a double-edged sword. Now all of your data is in one place, so that...
But they do have digital twins, multiple. So even if they blew up Estonia, they have 3 other countries or something like that where their data is.
Yes.
So,
but what I'm saying is it more at risk from hackers because it's all in one basket, is what I'm saying. So there is that issue. But what they've got mainly is a different attitude to their citizens, do you know what I mean? Which is, you aren't here to be raped by corporations. You are sovereign beings and you deserve to be treated with respect in your data.
Say when, you say who.
Yes, exactly. So that's...
You decide.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I just think it's disgusting that this attitude prevails that these businesses are entitled to all of this data and they're not even behaving responsibly. I mean, it would be ugly enough if they were taking it and protecting it. But the fact that they're taking it and they're not putting in place every safeguard that's available. This guy, Dave, that I spoke to on Friday, if he turned up and said this will help, they should have just done it. Do you know what I mean? Because that should be their responsibility, is to protect that data if they've taken it.
It's their first and biggest responsibility, I think.
Yes.
Is privacy. So, but huge cost to them for this event, and you can see there's hundreds of stories about Optus responding and so forth. But, the government saying that they've had to wait 18 days for them to hand over the breached data to government. Why that's happening, that's another question mark. But to examine the extent of the damage and so forth. So it feels like there are strange protocols that we're not aware of that are suddenly being activated. So the communication around this, and that is marketing, right, is how how is it that the government are demanding all of this data so they can analyze it? Is that okay? So the answer to a breach is put the data in more people's hands. Yeah, so it's kind of weird and not good for either Optus or Singtel, who own them in Singapore. The cost
Or
of this is going to be,
marketing, which is 70% of all advertising now happens on digital platforms. It's not good for digital. Do you know what I mean? It's like how much of marketers' money goes into building trust, which has now just been undermined because this one corporation didn't do enough to safeguard the data that they were holding. Good story, interesting, 100% marketing.
Yeah, Telstra was doing a lot better until they admitted of a staff breach of data. So that was something like, was it 30,000 people, I think, something like that, and all staff. So they were saying no customers, but it's not good.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, like, where do customers go? They could leave, but they're contracted. Is the next place any better or not? I just don't think there's enough choice. I think these corporations aren't being held to account enough, which probably brings me to my story number 2. Do you want to hear about story number 2? Twitter ads suspended by, I can show you this. Twitter ads suspended by top brands because of child exploitation. At least 30 major advertisers have dropped advertising on Twitter after it was... That's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Close that. How can I make it? Yes, I can make it bigger. At least 30 major advertisers have dropped advertising on Twitter after it was revealed that their ads were displayed alongside tweets soliciting illegal child abuse content. For example, a promoted tweet by a Scottish Rite Children's Hospital in Texas was shown alongside toxic tweets related to child sexual abuse. Advertisers revolt. 30 large brands have stopped their accounts. Twitter spokesman was quoted as saying that the research and conclusions by the cybersecurity firm which studied tweets and accounts during the first 20 days of September was not representative of Twitter's efforts to combat illicit activities. But the article by Reuters quoted multiple big brand advertisers who were notified that their ads appeared next to the toxic tweets. This is how I feel about it. If you are profiting from child abuse, you shouldn't be in business. Simple. They shouldn't be in business. If they aren't in a position to prevent this from happening, like, forget the advertisers, forget whatever. If your business is enabling child abuse, you shouldn't be allowed to be in business.
How sickening you would. I mean, that's just. There's just on so many levels suffering that is going to be happening as a result of this.
Yeah.
When you talked about trust, it's like the ultimate breach of trust. It's the opposite of what you're trying to do. Yeah, I can't even imagine how you deal with that story, how you deal with that situation, how it has happened. I mean, there was a story last year, maybe the year before, where Westpac, one of the biggest banks in Australia, was found to be, one of their investment funds was investing in something which turned out to be a paedophile ring. Can you imagine? And so, of course, so many people were fired, and an independent inquiry, and how could this happen, and so forth. These sorts of things, you think, how can this actually happen? I don't understand how these things can come to be.
Well, I think it's the same thing again. I mean, it's here. So, literally, who is this? We're horrified, David Maddox, brand president at Cole Haan, told Reuters after being notified that the company's ads appeared alongside such tweets. Either Twitter is going to fix this, or we'll fix it by any means we can, which includes not buying Twitter ads. So it feels to me like the issue is not that Twitter is enabling the distribution of child abuse. That's not the issue. The issue is that their ads appeared there. So even the brands that are advertising there aren't. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't know, but that doesn't seem to be their primary concern. Is that this service is enabling child abuse, or the promotion of child abuse, or the distribution of child abuse, or whatever it might be. What it is the issue is that they showed our ads next to them. Do you know what I mean? It's like if fixing it meant Twitter never enables the distribution of this kind of content
I
again.
See what you're saying. How is this organization allowing such an ad to be anywhere at all on its platform in the first place? We're never using Twitter again.
Yes. That would be like if you're a brand, that would have to be we're not advertising anywhere where they are. So, and this also goes along. Apparently, Twitter had plans for an OnlyFans type service that they were going to produce at some point.
How are they still in business? I mean, Twitter is just kind of, it's like a who's who of what not to do in, 10 easy lessons.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
First of all, we're going to lie about our revenue. Then we're going to use those lies to secure investment under false pretenses. Then we're going to engage with promoting child abuse. Happy about that. And what's more, we're going to randomly stick the ads of our clients who are clearly against that stuff, alongside those. There you go. What else can we do? What could we do next? What are they going to do next? I mean,
yeah. And
we're going to do that we are ourselves all pedophiles. That's what's going to happen next, isn't it? Twitter board turn. I don't know what they could do now worse than this. How do they recover?
I don't know. But the thing is, I think the reason that they're still in business is because we all have some weird respect, whatever the word is, subordination, maybe that's the word, for these stupidly big corporations. It's like, oh, okay, you gave away my passport and my driving license and all my data. Did you? Oh, well. Did you have images of child abuse? Oh, well, do you know what I mean? It's like, so this might be the worst, but let's not forget that Instagram 3 weeks ago were fined $400 million by the Irish for giving away the contact details of children. Do you know what I mean? There's just there's no responsibility going on. It's like, if you can't safeguard people's data, you shouldn't have it. If you can't prevent the distribution of these kinds of images on your platform, you shouldn't be in business. If you can't safeguard the data of children, the contact details of children, you shouldn't have that data. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's insane. It really is insane that we've got to this position.
The conversation that we should be having isn't happening, that we're having a different conversation about fixing it as opposed to understanding what fix it means. Fix it means that how did it happen in the first place and reverse that so it never happens again. That's certainly what Westpac did. They did they paid and funded for this independent inquiry. How did this thing happen? And so it never happens again, and shut it down immediately. So their response was actually very good, I thought, because it was the usual things about we're horrified with this, but it was like they did immediately say, how did this happen? And we need to make sure that we avoid this ever happening again.
Yes.
Which we haven't heard from Twitter, from what I'm hearing, from what you're saying.
That's, I'm showing you the articles here. Nobody's saying this is disgusting. We are not going to give money to an organisation that profits from this. Literally profits, because those corporations were paying them to run ads alongside this content. So they are literally profiting. That's it. It's not even like a hop, skip and a jump and away. It's like, here is the abusive content. Here is the advert. Here is the money. Thank you very much. It's profiting from...
Not so long ago, we had a chat about Twitter being our moral compass, about who they were allowed to tweet on what.
100%, yeah. Yeah.
So if they're our moral compass, where does that leave us? I do feel like I need to delete my Twitter account now, because I'm like, I don't really want to be supporting a platform that does, but has allowed this to happen. I've got no trust that, and these are just things we're finding out about. I mean, what are they allowing to happen that I don't know about?
So what we're talking about here now is a organization that has the moral responsibility to ban the democratically elected president of the United States, but doesn't have the moral responsibility to prevent images of child abuse appearing on their platform. That's where we are. It's actually insane. It's actually insane. Okay, good. Well, let's bury then my other story very quickly, which is Google facing this 25.4 billion damages claims. This is just really boring. It's like every week they're paying out millions. The only thing that I want to say about this is, I can show this to you. At last, the governments at least seem to be waking up to the fact that, like, the last one last year was A1 last year was 220 million euros. At least finally, governments seem to be waking up to the fact that it has to be tens of billions of dollars that they're fined. I mean, $25 billion is something like 10% of their turnover. So if they get hit with 2 or 3 or 4 of these a year and they actually end up paying them, then actually finally maybe these corporations might start to take some responsibility for what they're doing. That's all I really want to say about that story. I'm glad Google are getting done for $25.4 billion.
Well, it sounds like, linking to the accountability theme of today, one way or another, you're going to feel consequences, and it's nice to see that happening.
Really nice. And the consequences are finally appropriate to the obscene amounts of money that these businesses are making. I mean, if they, like, 220 million isn't 1% of their turnover, you know, it's like they'll budget to pay those fines. That's cool. Okay, good. Let's go to your last story, which is this ACCC commences fresh sweeps for greenwashing, misleading online reviews. What's this about, Melanie Farmer?
Yeah, Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. So it is in Australia, but they have been sweeping through organisations online to discover and hunt down deceptive advertising and marketing practices. And so they are the industry regulation watchdog, if you like, on compliance and enforcement. And they're looking at greenwashing, so that those that are claiming to be green when they're not, online reviews which are not real. So they're always actively monitoring these things, but they've just recently, they're looking at reviews on Facebook pages, third-party review platforms, and so they're looking at about 100 businesses at any given time. But I quite like that they're doing this, and that this is news, if you like, right now. And again, it's about accountability. And so it is two-way. So it's fake reviews where someone's giving a negative review, but actually they never consumed that service. And so they might just be out to get somebody. So misleading and harmful reviews are just as bad as an organisation putting misleading and positive reviews. And so pretty hard to police, but I love that there's an organisation and that's what they live for, is just wanting to make sure that things are accurate, so they're not incentivised and being, you know, where people are getting paid to post good reviews or paid to post bad reviews.
Yes, 100%.
So, yeah, good for them. I'm glad that this organisation exists. This is a story from today, 4th of October, and you know, I'd be interested to see what actually happens from it. But yeah, they're just sweeping through. So what they're saying is the last 2 internet sweeps, they canvassed 200 sites. But it's across all sectors: clothing, footwear, you know, retail, vehicles, household products, appliances, and, you know, just protecting the consumer, I guess. And who obviously, there's a whole science around relying on customer testimonials for the decisions that one makes. And they'll be significantly fined for misleading information, which includes false reviews.
Good. Yeah, I also think good. But the thing is, I really think good, but it's just like, who can you trust now? Do you know what I mean? It's like in the post-truth world, like, I don't know. It's like every organization has an agenda. Do you know what I mean? It's like, is the agenda really to protect the consumer, or is it more about protecting the rights of the bigger corporations against the smaller corporations? There's just a minefield of what actually is environmentally good practice and what isn't, and you know, institution narratives versus rebel narratives versus, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of think, I always think, like, what if they didn't exist? If they didn't exist, then effectively they're like the police, right? But
Yeah,
then what I'm hearing, who's policing the police? So is there an internal affairs who are policing the police and so forth? And but at least there's someone who that is their job, and they have the ability to interrogate and investigate these things in a kind of an auditing way. And I take your point, like, who are these auditors?
yes, yes.
And why do we think they would be trusted? But I will probably trust this group more than I perhaps might trust um, some brands. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
really
I don't.
reliant a lot for what I buy.
Yeah,
And
I think.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think like misadvertising. Like, we have the Advertising Complaints Commission in the UK. I don't. What do I think? I think, like, if it were more actively tracking down and putting people in prison who are committing actual fraud rather than greenwashing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if greenwashing is the number one priority in society right now, when we know that dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands, millions of people are being defrauded through the internet all of the time. I don't know if it's the number one issue. I don't want to be cynical about it. But here's the realization I came to when I was talking to Dave about the cybersecurity and the data breaches and all those things. What was like, because 92% of these breaches come from email, because whatever percentage of all emails are fraud, it kind of paints us as digital marketers. It puts us all in one category. So there's spam for me, and then there's fraud. Okay, so they might be committing fraud through the spam, but that doesn't mean that digital, like, there should be some, like, if your intent is to commit fraud, that's different from sending out shitty emails because you're a shitty email marketer. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and because they all get bunched into these same categories, it's like digital email marketers are as bad as Nigerian princes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it just seems to me to be disproportionate. So I applaud this. Like, I want there to be truth on the internet. I just don't know anymore who's actually qualified to provide that truth. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Well, I personally think I'm pretty good at spotting fake reviews, and it's going to be a young site, often in retail, that is got 4 good reviews and 1 bad, and the bad reviews not sufficiently bad to turn you off.
yes,
So that's going to be often where you see really obvious, when they're sort of saying, this pill changed my life. I was really skeptical, and then I achieved off-scale happiness in 2 minutes. So that we all know, but we don't all know that that's fake. But it's
yeah,
so obviously, to me, so obvious that it's fake. But I acknowledge that I don't enjoy having that rubbish being spouted out as actual truth, and people making decisions with their money based on something that isn't actually real. So I
yes,
like the fact that somebody is shutting that down and saying, this is not even a drug, and no, it hasn't been clinically tested, and no, these people didn't take the drug. In
yes,
fact,
yes,
no one posted this review. It was posted by the company themselves fraudulently. to lie about something where you think you're going to get cured for cancer and you're not. And
Yeah.
that is deeply unfortunate. And the privileged few who understand that it's not real, and you just remember so many people don't know that. And so
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a level of fighting the corner for those who haven't got the fortune to be exposed enough to understand that what they're looking at isn't real.
Yeah.
So at least if there's someone shutting that stuff down as much as they can,
A
that is a
100%.
good start. It's a start.
Yes. 100%. 100%. And that, I think that's what I'm saying is like, it doesn't seem to me like greenwashing is the biggest issue we're facing. You know, people are being defrauded every day on the internet. So I would hope that there's an initiative comparable to this that's actually tackling that. My point about the email was, like, if you get an email, like, you can put it in your junk file or your spam folder or whatever it is, but there should be another category of, like, there should be spam or junk, i.e. this is shitty email marketing that I didn't ask for and I don't like and I don't want. And then there should be actual fraud, go around these people's houses and put them in prison. Do you know what I mean? But there's no, that distinction isn't being made. Like, if
Different.
all of the hatred in the world that was going towards spam actually went to imprisoning those people who commit fraud, that should be priority number one, I think. And all I'm saying here is that, you know, I hope that there are similar initiatives that are going on to stop people getting defrauded.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a whole other commissions dealing with corruption and so forth on that scale. But I just thought in marketing terms, it really is a pet peeve of mine. Like, this changed my life off scale happiness overnight, and I'm like, God, if there was less of those, I'd be happy. That's a good start.
Yeah, yeah. Well, misadvertising is a problem and has always been a problem. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but it doesn't feel today after this conversation like the world's getting better to me. It's a bit annoying.
Well, it does feel like there's accountability. I mean, there's a lot of Optus customers who are no longer Optus customers. There's
Yes.
who left and said, that's it, I'm done. There's, I suspect, a bit of a backlash with Twitter. I'm about to close my account with them. That's where I'm thinking, should I? I feel like I should. And, there's sweeps going through companies to say you've got to be accountable. So I think it's important, and it's not pleasant, but it's something's happening. That's
Yeah.
where I'm
Well,
at.
now I'm conflicted. Should I, after everything I've said, should I close my Twitter account?
Yeah.
I get so little benefit from it anyway. It's like, why even have it? Do you know what I mean? If they are profiting from child abuse, which they're running ads alongside images of child abuse, that's profiting from child abuse. I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Well, on that happy note,
it's been an impactful conversation.
A journey we have been on of accountabilities and authorities and responsibilities.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, I think we're occupying. I got into trouble with somebody because I'd react to content, and I reacted to a thing. It was Nestle, the most evil company in the world, and someone was saying, like, "Come on, give them a chance. Maybe they're trying to get better." Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, that business is 156 years old. That business has been responsible for the death of children because they, convinced mothers in sub-Saharan Africa to add their powder to river water and feed it to their children. It's that company has done really bad things, but I feel like there's this weird, like, even now I'm doing it now. Like, do I really want to close my Twitter account? Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on, give them a chance. It's like, how many chances is enough chance? I think there's a weird kind of apathy that goes on that has to change. Like, people have to, like, you and I have to start saying, actually, that's unacceptable, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
I'm tapping out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm going to close my Twitter account. I don't care. I'm doing it. And I'm going to post on LinkedIn. I don't think
I feel any sense of loss, I'll be honest. There's not much.
Yes.
Apart from the inevitable demise. Before too long, they may not be a company anymore anyway, at this rate. They are the golden rule book of 10 things not to do in 10 weeks. So, yeah, interesting.
It's just crazy. It's insane. maybe they will get $44 billion out of Elon Musk to, maybe that will be their...
What's he going to make of this too? You didn't
I don't know.
mention
something. I hope something, because, yeah.
He can't be silent on. Yeah.
All right, good. I feel like we're tapering away. We should draw a line. Get on with our
lives.
Draw a
line. Get on with our lives. Open a new chapter next week.
Excellent. 2 weeks. I'll see you.
2 weeks.
All right. Super cool. Oh, no, we may see each other before.
Yeah, that's true. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Great
All right,
chat.
you're an absolute legend for being here. Thank you, Melanie Farmer. We will see you in a couple of weeks. You're an absolute legend. Thank you.
Fun. See ya.
See ya.